Have you ever wondered what you would be able to do if everything you need was torn from your hands? As you watch this video, a story of courage and fire unfolds in the shadows of the American past, revealing secrets that many preferred to bury along with the ashes. What I am going to tell today is not in the history books that taught you at school. Lucy of Savannah, a woman who turned pain into flames, left a mark that no rain managed to erase in colonial Georgia. The words I share now carry the weight of lives consumed by the fire of the revolt. A fire that began long before the first sparks touched the dry wood of that farm. If this story resonates in your heart, be sure to subscribe to the channel to receive more revelations about the souls who dare to confront the cruelty of their time. What you are about to find out will forever change the way you see the resistance of those who had nothing to lose beyond the currents themselves. Prepare yourself, because the flames that consumed Willow Creek Farm still crepitate through the centuries. The fallen walls of the old Willow Creek Farm still keep black marks on their stones. The wind that blows between the rubble seems to carry whispers, muffled laments. Here, where the ashes mingled with the fertile earth of Georgia, a legend was born with strands of pain and revenge. On moonless nights, Savannah's inhabitants say that an orange shine still shake between the ruins, as if the fire that consumed the mansion and its gentlemen had never been completely erased. This is not only the story of a rebellion, but the testimony of how human cruelty always reaps what it plants. When powerful people turn people into property, they do not realize that the same hand that lights the fire to warm them can burn out the entire structure that sustains them. If you want to follow more cases like this, which move with all society and reveal hidden truths, subscribe to the channel so as not to lose any investigation. Willow Creek Farm stretched for over 1,000 acres of Georgia's red land, 20 miles from the city of Savannah. The main house, built in Georgian style with white columns and 2 imposing floors, dominated the top of a soft hill, from which Mr. Thomas Blackwood supervised his cotton empire. The enslaved cabins formed a semicircle 400 meters of the big house near the stream that cut the property, close enough for constant control, far enough to keep the night moans away from the delicate ears of the family. There lived 87 captive souls, awakened daily by the bell that sounded even before the first flash on the horizon. In summer, 16 hours worked under the relentless sun. In winter, his hands cracked as they separated seeds in the damp shed. Timothy's 9-pointed whip, the foreman, had a proper name among the enslaved. The Whispering, for it rejoined even the innocent confessions. In the punishment room, shackles attached to the walls were waiting for the recalcitrants, while iron necklaces with thorns turned inside educated those who spoke when they should not. The gate of that room was enough to silence any conversation in the fields. With the arrival of the fall of 1812, the falling leaves seemed to predict more than just the end of the harvest. Lucy was not like the others. Born on the neighboring farm, and sold to Blackwood at 12, she had the rare gift of knowing the plants and their secrets. His grandmother, brought from Dahomey decades earlier, had transmitted the ancestral knowledge of the healing herbs and those who kill, whispering names and properties as they picked up in the forest. At the age of 27, Lucy had eyes that seemed to read thoughts and hands that could either relieve fevers and prepare mixtures that no white doctor understood. Thomas Blackwood himself resorted to his potions when Savannah doctors failed to treat their painful drop. Lucy moved between the kitchen of the big house and the fields of the fields, taking with them not only medicines, but also information that flowed unnoticed in the listeners of the masters. She has the ear of the earth and the tongue of the wind, said the elders. On moonless nights, they listened to her low corner. As she manipulated roots in the light of candle made with wax, she extracted herself. His knowledge was his protection, and it would be his weapon. Among the enslaved, no one better knew the bowels of Casa Grande, the habits of the family, the secrets hidden behind the walls of noble wood. Leave in the comments. Never give up the truth if you believe justice should reach all the oppressed. Blackwood's cruelty was not limited to common punishments. The family had developed a sinister reputation for their educational methods. The eldest son, Jeremiah, gossed Ava of betting how long a man would handle hanging from his wrists under the sunny sun. Elizabeth, her middle daughter, had a habit of ordering her personal slaves to her knees for hours as she read, burning them with iron to mark when her eyes dared to close. The younger twins, William and Robert, only 16, were already sloping to wicked by forcing enslaved children to fight each other for their entertainment. But it was Thomas himself who elevated terror to new heights when he realized a smaller than expected harvest. He ordered 3 men to be buried to his neck on the central field, left there for 2 days without water. 2 of them died. The 3rd never spoke. Lucy watched everything, her face an impenetrable mask that hid the storm that grew inside. She treated the wounds of the survivors with her herbs, while something deeply changed in her gaze. Lucy's heart was definitely shattered on a July morning. Sarah, her younger sister of only 17, also owner of the plant knowledge, was 7 months pregnant, the result of the violence of William Blackwood. That morning, Lucy heard the shouts from the big house. Sarah had been accused of placing Herb's suspicions in Mrs. Blackwood's tea. Dragged to the courtyard, Elizabeth Blackwood ordered Sarah to be whipped. "The mestizo child is not worth a drop of my mother's blood," he said coldly. Lucy, called to attend the sick lady, saw the window the 20 whip rip her back of her pregnant sister. Hidden behind a column, he bit his own arm until he was bleeding so as not to scream. That night Sarah went into premature labor. Lucy helped at birth, but both the child and her sister died before dawn. Following the custom of his ancestral land, Lucy cut a lock of Sarah's hair. She had a thin cord, and tied her own wrist. With his sister's blood still stained, he kissed his forehead and whispered in his mother tongue, "For the fire of our ancestors, they will pay. I swear on their soul, and the child who never breathed." The Blackwood family formed a perfect structure of compartmentalized evil. Thomas, the 60-year-old patriarch, combined cruelty calculated with public respectability, attending the church on Sundays with fervor while signing orders of punishment on Monday. Mrs. Margaret, her wife, cultivated deliberate blindness to the horrors, taking refuge in her medicines and prayers, but did not hesitate to order punishments for insolence when she felt contradicted. Jeremiah, the 32-year-old heir, had studied in London and returned with modern ideas that in practice meant more sophisticated methods of control. Elizabeth, 28 years old, used her refined education varnish to disguise an insatiable thirst for domination. The twins, William and Robert, with their privileged youth, represented the perpetuation of that system for the next generation. The event that sealed the fate of the Blackwood took place during a visit by the governor of Georgia. To impress him, Thomas organized a demonstration of how he disciplined his slave, Problematic. Lucy was forced to watch while one of her closest friends, a man named Moses, who secretly taught others to read, was brutally beaten to death as example. The governor applauded the firmness necessary to maintain order. That night, looking at Moses's broken body, Lucy made her final decision. The humiliation came a week after Moses's death. Lucy was accused of keeping dangerous herbs on her cabin, the same she used to treat the Blackwood family. Dragged to the center of the courtyard, his hair was forcibly scraped while everyone was forced to watch. "To learn that even the privileged ones have their place," said Thomas. The twins laughed as Timothy, the foreman, cut locks from his hair and threw them into the fire. "Now she looks like a bald demon," William mocked. Elizabeth suggested that she use a bell in her neck, like cattle, so that everyone knew as she approached. Throughout the ritual, Lucy did not shed a tear, did not make a sound. His eyes, fixed on each face of the Blackwood family, recorded. They memorized. When they finally released her, she staggered to her cabin under mixed glances of fear and fear. That night marked its complete transformation. The broken mirror he kept showed not only his exposed skull, but also a new being that emerged from pain. "Let it be so," he murmured to his fragmented reflection. The plan took shape for 3 moons. Lucy carefully selected her allies. Jacob, the coachman who knew all the escape paths. Mary, the cook whose presence in the big house never raised suspicions. Samuel, young strong who works in the stable and had access to the most remote corners of the property. And the old Ruth, who pretended dementia but knew every routine of the Blackwood family for decades. They divided tasks with military accuracy. Jacob would prepare the strategically positioned horses on the trails leading to the forest. Mary would identify the exact moment when the whole family would be gathered. Samuel would collect and hide flammable materials. Ruth would memorize the hours of the night rounds. Lucy, in turn, prepared the main weapon, a mixture of herbs, oils, and resins that burned with intensity, impossible to erase with common water. They mapped the big house, identifying each entrance, each stairs, every possible escape route. They gathered only during the night corner ritual, when the whites believed they just prayed. The date chosen was not accidental. November 15th, anniversary of Thomas Blackwood, when the family would hold its traditional celebration banquet. Baptized their plan of purification for fire. 3 days earlier, they started the count. 3 nights for justice, 2 nights for liberation, a night for rebirth. On the eve of the birthday, 2 worlds coexisted on Willow Creek Farm. In the big house, Selected created, prepared the main hall for the celebration. Silver chandeliers were polished until it reflects as mirrors. Margaret Blackwood personally inspected the imported dishes of England. In outer kitchens, whole pigs spinned on skewers on controlled embers. Elizabeth supervised the decoration with flowers gathered that morning, while the twins argued excitedly about the planned hunt for the next day. Thomas received the first guests who would be for the party, 3 neighboring owners. The music of a violin played by Jeremiah floated by the property. At the same time, in the huts and corners invisible in the eyes of you, another kind of preparation happened. Lucy applied a final layer of her mixture to pieces of cloth hidden in an empty barrel. Jacob checked the stable doors, ensuring that they could be blocked on the outside. Samuel strategically positioned small hills of dry straw in key places around the house. Mary memorized which large house windows would be open for air circulation during the banquet. Ruth whispered to the elders who gathered only the essentials, without arousing suspicions. When the bell announced the sunset, Lucy looked at the reddish sky and made a small cut on her wrist where she carried the cord made with Sarah's hair. A drop of blood fell to the earth. The signal was given. 10 o'clock at night. The banquet reached its peak in the main hall. 26 guests toasted to the health of Thomas Blackwood. Domestic slaves served another round of wine imported from France. Upstairs, the children of visiting families slept under the supervision of their nominations. In the outer kitchen, Mary indicated with almost imperceptible nod. All Blackwood were in the main hall. Lucy, wearing the uniform of one of the maids, infiltrated the back carrying a tray with bottles. No one questioned her presence as all the eyes were turned to Thomas's speech. With precise and invisible movements, she deposited her packages soaked in strategic locations, behind the heavy velvet curtains, under the tail piano, near the main stairs, next to the beverage cabinet. Each package contained not only its flammable mixture, but also small sulfur stones that would intensify the flames. Samuel silently blocked the secondary departures with wooden bars. Jacob positioned the horses 200 meters from the house, hidden between the trees. When Thomas raised his cup to the final toast, Lucy approached him from behind. "A special gift for the Lord," he whispered, placing a small fragrant sachet in his pocket. "Herbs for your health." Thomas smiled without recognizing her without her hair. "Thank you, girl." It was his last kind words. Lucy came out calmly through the kitchen door, and 50 steps from the house, lit her first match. The fire started simultaneously at 6 different points. The flames, fueled by Lucy's special mix, did not produce initial smoke, just intense heat that devoured the dry wood of the centenary structure. The guests continued their feast for precious minutes before someone noted the orange shine that began to involve the hall. Panic broke out when the corridor ceiling collapsed, blocking the main output. "Fire! Fire in the house!" The scream finally broke the joy of the party. Thomas tried to organize the evacuation, but discovered the blocked side exits. Elizabeth ran to the stairs, trying to reach the children upstairs, but the flames already devoured the steps. Margaret fell to his knees, paralyzed by terror. Gemini broke down windows, just to find that the fire already consumed the outer porch. Jeremiah, in desperation, tried to use rugs to drown the flames, without realizing that the fabric itself was impregnated with the Lucy mixture. Outside at a safe distance, Lucy watched. The sachet he had placed in Thomas's pocket began to react to heat, releasing an aroma that numbs the senses, the same herb he had used to host problematic slaves before severe punishments. The mansion turned into a golden furnace, illuminating the night like a macabre lighthouse. The screams gradually declined, replaced by the voracious roar of the flames. When the main roof finally collapsed, Lucy turned her back on the hell she had created. Silence. In the combined clearing, half-kilometer from the big house, 85 people gathered in the darkness. Silenced children with notice, elderly supported by young people, all carrying only small muggles with essential objects. Lucy arrived last, her face illuminated by the distant glow of the fire that continued to consume the Blackwood property. In the center of the clearing, Samuel and Jacob had built a small pyre with dry branches. Lucy withdrew a piece of fabric from her bag, Sarah's bloody dress which she had kept since her death, put it on the pyre. "We are no longer property. We are no longer tools. We are no longer invisible," he said in a firm voice. He lit the pyre with the same phosphorus he had used in the big house. "May the fire that consumes our oppressors illuminate our way to freedom." One by one, the 85 former slaves passed the flame, each throwing at some object that symbolized their captivity. A piece of chain, a uniform rag, an identification collar. Ruth, the oldest in the group, placed a cloth doll that represented 3 generations of her family born in captivity. When everyone finished the ritual, they organized themselves in line. Jacob, knowledgeable of the secret paths, took the lead. "To the north. Always north," he instructed. The liberated column moved quietly through the forest, leaving behind only ashes and a farm on fire. Lucy, the last in line, didn't look backwards. In the following weeks, the Willow Creek farm fire caused shockwaves throughout Georgia. Official reports accounted for 32 people killed, including the entire Blackwood family and their guests. The governor sent an alarmed letter to President Madison, warning of a new and terrible insurrection method. Farmers from neighboring states hired additional guards. 3 properties in South Carolina reported mysterious fires within a month, although on a smaller scale. In Charleston, an anonymous pamphlet circulated among the enslaved population, describing in detail how to produce Lucy's purifying mix. Panic among the owners contrasted with a silent wave of hope that spread throughout the Senzalas. Lucy's name was rarely mentioned aloud but became a code. Lady L's medicine meant resistance. North herbs symbolized escape. The final medicine represented definitive retaliation. Authorities offered a $5,000 reward for information about the whereabouts of the runaway slaves of Willow Creek, especially for a woman without herbal knowledge. The chase lasted almost 6 months. While most Willow Creek fugitives were able to reach northern states or even Canada through the Underground Railway, Lucy and a small group of 7 were tracked by specialized reward hunters. In March 1813, a patrol of 20 men surrounded his camp in the Tennessee forests. Samuel and Jacob died in the first gust of fire. Mary was captured trying to protect 2 children. Lucy, Ruth, and 2 others managed to escape temporarily, just to be cornered 3 days later near the Cumberland River. Old Ruth, exhausted, gave Lucy a small package. "Continue work. Our story doesn't end here." He sacrificed himself as he runs in the opposite direction, attracting half of the persecutors. Lucy and her last 2 companions were finally surrounded on the riverbank. With turbulent waters in front of him and armed hunters behind him, Lucy made her final choice. He removed from his pocket the last package of his special mixture and a match. "You can kill the body, but the fire continues," he told the approaching hunters. He lit the package and held him against his chest. The flames consumed their body in seconds before hunters could capture it alive. His last words, recorded by the patrol leader: "Fire purifies, fire liberates, fire remembers." No official record mentions the fate of other Willow Creek fugitives. History. The transmitted orally suggests that at least 30 of them have achieved free communities in Canada, where they kept alive the memory of Lucy. In the 1850s, travelers reported the existence of an isolated community near Toronto, where a healer prepared medicines using curiously similar methods to those known in Georgia. Among the Southern enslaved, Lucy became an almost mythological figure. Coded songs celebrated the Lady of Flames, who turned oppressors into ashes. Small leaf-shaped amulets, symbolizing their knowledge of herbs, were secretly exchanged as a symbol of resistance. In the following decades to the incident, Plantation's owners reported an increase in the number of accidental fires, many following standards similar to Lucy's method. After the Civil War, historians tried to document the case, just to find that official records had been systematically altered to assign the fire to natural causes. But in the Black communities of Savannah, the story persisted. To this day, in the first new moon of November, some old residents still put small candles lit with dried herbs on the sills of their doors. Not as a celebration, they explain, but as a reminder, so that they know that the fire never goes out completely. If you watched so far, it is because you care about these stories that marked our country forever. Leave a comment saying, "I watched here," so that I can meet you and know who really cares about the search for historical truth. Like this video if the story of Lucy touched her heart. Share so that Lucy's memory will never be forgotten.